bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
And take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear overnight, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Join the revolution of data journalism at peoplespundit.locals.com and consider supporting the Public Polling Project, which is all those links are in the video description, as well as where you can find me on Getter and on Twitter. We're going to go over some of the questionnaires today. But really meant to do it yesterday, but we're going to have a conversation with locals about some of the COVID questions, which we're going to talk about specifically as it relates to children and school vaccines. I think that's probably the most appropriate thing if we're going to add anything, as well as something on the employer mandate, potentially the impact people may see to the employer mandate. I think that's probably pretty smart too. But all right. Going forward, there was a show notification that I wanted to talk about, but I guess, it is what it is. I'll remember it in a few. All right. Today we have Shawn Hyland from New Jersey 3, one of the top districts in the PPD, People's Pundit, target list of what will potentially flip next year in the midterms. And we'll go over that district. We'll explain it a little bit further before we bring on the candidate. All right, which we'll do at 11:30, correct? Yes. 11:30. Of course, my good friend Don Smith will join us later. We'll do a Q&A. That's always fun. But for right now, I want to talk about the Rittenhouse trial, which goes to the jury shortly. All right. First and foremost, there was absolutely no reason for the defense attorney, to promise that the jury would hear from Kyle Rittenhouse. That was a mistake. And while he conducted himself fairly well, you don't ever put a defendant on the stand if you don't have to. And the prosecutor basically made his life. He is the malpractice of the prosecutor. All right. Made the defense attorney look better than he is. All right. I have no reason to be nice, right? As far as I know, I have no professional obligation to be nice. That was a completely incompetent defense. This was a jury selection trial. The facts were never on the side of the prosecutor. And in fact, if you have actually been watching the Rittenhouse trial, then and paying attention with, and you're not one of those rigid belief systems, you probably have already come to the conclusion this case should never have been brought in the first place, because it shouldn't have. This was an ideological move because the idea of a well-regulated militia and the Second Amendment and citizens defending themselves against civil unrest that is created by one side on purpose for political advantage scares the hell out of that side. They want to get rid of the idea and the possibility of citizens using firearms to defend themselves. This has nothing to do with a young man, really a teenager, crossing state lines with a weapon, which, by the way, is not in and of itself an issue. This has nothing to do with, some racial thing where a white kid goes and guns down people who are supporting the rights of minority citizens. This has to do with guns and self-defense. And if you were watching the trial, you would know that. This may come as a shock to a lot of people if Kyle Rittenhouse does not get off completely. And that is because, as I want you guys to understand, juries don't render verdicts all the time. I know this is going to sound crazy. All right, bear with me. Juries don't always render verdicts based on the facts. Oh my God, that sounds crazy. I know, but it's true because I've been doing this and I've been at this for a very long time. And now it's been years now. Juries render verdicts based on their belief systems, their life experiences, and their personalities, which we categorize for a reason when selecting juries. Okay? And I know it's going to be a shock if there's some holdout who's like pro-BLM and anti-gun. It's going to be a shock to them given everything they have heard. But you also have to take into consideration what people are subjected to, okay? And let's see if I can do it like this now. I'll have to pop it up. This is this morning's Twitter trend, okay? This is a story from Insider News, all right? Overwhelmingly white juries will decide both the Kyle Rittenhouse and Ahmaud Arbery cases. The system isn't perfect, legal experts say. And then just let me a moment before I get into the description. Legal experts, their takes, their hot takes when they're watching these trials mean nothing. Laura worked, can I disclose this? Casey Anthony?
I guess so.
Everybody in the country hated Casey Anthony. If you remember, she was accused of killing her little daughter in Florida. Jose Baez was her defense attorney, and Ashcroft was the prosecutor. He was caught dead to rights in the middle of the trial in engaging in prosecutorial misconduct. All right. Jose Baez did a fantastic job advocating for Casey Anthony based on the facts of the case against a national climate pushed by media like people like Geraldo Rivera and others. And what was her name? That she hated her guts. Nancy Grace or something her name was. Remember her? She was one of the worst. All right. But the fact of the matter is, going into the trial, there was not enough evidence that Casey Anthony killed that girl. I'm not saying she did not kill her daughter. What I am saying is, and what I'm trying to disclose here is that Laura worked for one of her attorneys. All right. And it's just like, I know, I can't kill Laura. All right.
Yeah, please.
But she did other, whatever. It's really, the bottom line is, though, the media portrayed Casey Anthony as a slam dunk case when it wasn't. And the jury selection process mattered the most. And you might have remembered Casey Anthony constantly crying on the shoulder of a woman during that trial. That image was almost more important than anything that came out of Jose Baez's mouth during that trial, because Jose had already ensured a correct jury to hear that case. Some cases are really just jury selection trials. It matters more who gets sat on the jury than it does the arguments and facts of the case. And Jose Baez needed a jury that is probably like the vast majority of my viewers out there. They're able to sit down and put their biases away and weigh the facts of the case. If they do have personal experiences, life experiences, and belief systems, it's one that perhaps is a little bit skeptical towards authority. Not those who we call authoritarians, who defer to authority and want to please authority. They don't see injustices in the world by color. They see them by power. Anyway, the Rittenhouse trial has been coded much the same, only there's a political tint to this narrative in the national media that we didn't see in the Casey Anthony trial. All right, but no matter any way you slice it, they're getting worse. The media is getting worse because they're getting more political, but they have long been a force for injustice in this country. Injustice. They do not portray the facts of the case correctly, objectively, and in fact, they actively lie about them to push their own political narratives. You may not think some of these defendants are the most sympathetic defendants in the world, but it's pretty much irrelevant to the facts of the case, and they're not interested in them at all. So sadly, our justice system has been turned into a circus of people with their own agendas. So let me read the paragraph now to get a little bit more into it. The Kyle Rittenhouse and Ahmaud Arbery cases, by the way, really have nothing in common with each other at all. Have become two of the most high-profile murder trials in America. Jury selection in both cases ended with just one person of color making it onto each respective jury. Legal experts told Insider how this happened and why the jury system is imperfect. Well, these legal experts are idiots who are not offering advice in this article, or to be quoted in this article, as actual experts who are being objective about what happened. Anybody who knows what happened in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, in fact, will tell you that the defense blew a golden opportunity to pick. It doesn't matter about race, which I'll get into in a second, but they blew a golden opportunity to pick a favorable jury for Kyle. They had a judge who would have given them ample time to conduct voir dire in a manner that actually enlightened them or filled in the gaps about potential jurors. So they wouldn't have to now be taking a Hail Mary on who and who is not an alternate juror. The truth is that race and basic demographics, race, gender, down the line, basic sense of demographics are not traditionally predictive. They are not particularly predictive of how a particular jury will render, or juror, individual juror, will render a verdict. It is a superficial and idiotic take from a bunch of simpletons who have conducting themselves like pieces of garbage this entire time. They fabricated an article. This is not reality.
These people are lying.
The grand jury in the case of Darren Wilson and the shooting of Michael Brown was what? Who let Darren Wilson go? Officer Darren Wilson go? A minority witness speaking to minorities on the grand jury. If race was predictive, then Darren Wilson would have been fried for the defensive self-defense shooting of Michael Brown, who, by the way, never had his damn hands in the air and never said, hands up, don't shoot. He was an aggressive, angry, troubled 18-year-old. I'm not going to use the word, but he sure wasn't a boon to society, who tried to take a firearm off of a police officer, and he paid the price for it. But that is not what Jake Tapper at CNN told you. That is not what, he is the flagship anchor, and he went along with it. That is not what all of their guests told you. That is not what the New York Times told you. That is not what the Washington Post told you. That's not what NBC News told you, ABC News, CBS News, MSNBC, and down the damn line. Here is what I have found the entire time that I have been doing this. If you are a consumer of traditional corporate, which is largely left-wing media, network, cable news, outside of Fox, but even Fox contributes to this nonsense. They do. If you are a consumer of these news outlets, you are the most ignorant among us when it comes to these national trials. Anytime a case gets thrusted into the national light, if you're a reader of the New York Times, you're ignorant. If you read the Washington Post, you're ignorant. If you watch CNN, you are ignorant. And sadly, the most ignorant among us also happen to be the most rigid in their beliefs. They are unwilling to be told what the facts of the case are. So if you're Kyle Rittenhouse's attorney, you should have went after people who consume alternative media. You should have went after people who read their local newspapers at least once a day. How much you consume this news matters. If you read the New York Times every day, you're ignorant. If you watch CNN every single day, you're ignorant.
Misinformed.
You're misinformed. Well, that's ignorant. I'm not saying you're stupid, because stupid means you can't learn. Sadly, too large of a percentage of these people are made to be ideologically stupid. Because they're so rigid in their belief systems, it goes from a point of ignorance to a point of stupidity. Because you could see all the evidence in the world and it would still never change your mind. You could find out that the FBI had been hiding exculpatory footage and it still won't change your mind. All Jose Baez ever needed were daily consumers of local news. All Jose Baez ever needed were objective people. So while the Geraldo Riveras of the world, which is why I say Fox contributed to the Casey Anthony madness. So I'm not letting them off the hook. I'm certainly not. They contributed to the Casey Anthony madness, even though it was clear from the jump that there was not enough evidence to convict that woman. She may very well have killed her child. But I'm with John Adams. It's best to let 100, 1,000 guilty people go than it is to convict an innocent person. And that is not the system of justice we have here. The media, and now thank you, Twitter. Normally, it's just them sitting back and having garbage on their platform. But here they are making a publisher decision to take a garbage article and feature it in their trends from Insider News. Here they have made a decision like a publisher to join on the bandwagon with big media to become a force for injustice in this country. Cicero would be rolling. Of course, Jack Dorsey may be a whatever billionaire, whatever the hell he is, but he's probably still ignorant as hell to the writings of Cicero. This is a child we're talking about here, essentially. And I can see the garbage coverage of George Zimmerman, another self-defense case, clearly a case that should not have ever been brought. But Ben Crump and his friends, Darrell Parks and others, had been extorting the state government in Florida for years under the racket that, oh, wow, what was his name again? Charlie Crist, who wants to be your governor again, Florida, used to pay these people out millions of dollars. It was a racket with garbage cases that should never have been brought. And if they're not, then by God, they'll assemble a team of Al Sharptons to get out there, get the crowd to march in the street, and you'll have a problem on your hands. 1 second. So anyway, that's it, and that's the beginning of this. We're going to turn a corner here in a second. But I wanted to bring that up because I'm looking at all of this stuff and I don't think everybody really understands what they're up against here. I just don't. You know, it's cute to watch all the little legal analysts, blah, 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 blah. Did Geraldo not tell you, and all of the team of lawyers on Fox News tell you that Casey Anthony was going to jail? They tell you things and get you to expect things that ultimately never happen. And when Darren Wilson isn't convicted, Ferguson burns. Or actually, in that case, indicted. He wasn't even indicted. Because why? Again, please, if you take anything from this opening, it is that race and other basic demographics, despite what a racist corporate media tells you, they are not predictive indicators of how a jury will vote. Everything is not OJ. Every case is not O.J. Simpson. And by the way, we're no longer in the 1990s. Despite what they tell you, we have progressed. And you could just as easily get an old-timer on that jury. Or you could just as easily get an African-American from the neighborhood who maybe had been terrorized by the likes of Michael Brown or somebody like him on a grand jury. And that juror is a bigger problem than for you and your case than you may think if you listen to insider news. This is a problem we have to address because ultimately this country is about forever pursuing a more perfect system, whether it's the justice system, the political process, a more perfect union. No human government, because we are flawed. No human government is ever going to be perfect, but we're always supposed to be. That's the real promise of this country, that we never stop pursuing perfection, even if we fall flat. And we cannot do it with these grifters, these crooks, and these lying scumbags in the national media who do this for their own political and professional gain. And now, thank you, Jack Dorsey, for jumping on the bandwagon and helping them do it. Now you're a part of the problem. Before, they just took an inactive role. Now, in the case of Kyle Rittenhouse, they've decided to be proactive. And they're going to proactively shove lying trash down your throat. And they build up the expectations game. And when something doesn't happen that people expect, all hell breaks loose.
Because they create the monsters.
They created the monster that led to this event. Can we be real? George Floyd was not a good guy. I don't mean to malign the dead here. He was not a good guy, and what Derek Chauvin did is something we see police officers do every day in this country. Did I disagree with how Derek Chauvin handled that? At some point, yes. But I also took a look at the talk screen. None of those people knew all of this. Fine, they got their man, they got their scalp. That's not what justice is about. He got locked up, but it sent off months and months of these protests. The one thing Kyle has going for him is about 82% of citizens, voting age, jury eligible citizens in Kenosha, believe that we need less of those protests rather than more. That they were about rioting and not about civil rights. And because his lawyer screwed the pooch, he can only hope the jurors agree with him on that. But it's just a kid's life on the line. So, let's not take it too seriously, right? There'll be another national case a year from now that the media will choose to hype up. And we'll move on. And if he gets convicted, we'll all forget about Kyle Rittenhouse, that kid who got thrown in jail because the media are a bunch of liars. We'll move on to something else. Because that's another part of what I do. There are some serious high-profile cases. This is not a time and place for this show. That I believe with a high degree of confidence these people are in jail and they are innocent. And that is not a more perfect union. Because we know what the problem is. We know what is leading to these injustices. There are external forces doing it. Speaking of which, we're about 3.5 minutes out from our guest. So let me pivot over. Speaking of external forces, they will play the role of opposition here, especially now that New Jersey and Virginia are behind us with 2021. They will go back to being what they were after Donald Trump won the presidency in 2016 and Republicans kept both houses of Congress and they had control of the government. And that is the role of the opposition party, what they do best. They will do whatever they can to defend the Democratic majority in the House and to prevent what appears to be a bigger number of seats. 2 weeks ago, they definitely got shook. This district we're about to bring our guest in is at the top of our list on districts to potentially flip. Now, there are always those districts that come out of nowhere that no political prognosticator like myself ever sees coming. And that's just part of the way it is. It's just the nature of the beast. But this one is one that I pretty much feel whoever wins the Republican nomination is going to win. All right. And now I'm not telling you don't have hard work here if you're a Republican. I'm not saying it's in the bag. But let me give you a little bit of history. In 2018, when it was a very, very, very pro-Democratic year, Andrew Kim, who is the Democratic incumbent, hit exactly 50% of the vote. Tom MacArthur, who ran as a Republican, 48.7%. So in a so-called blue wave, which wasn't a wave, it was more like a puddle getting stepped in and then a little couple splashes here and there. All right. The Democrat won in that election by 1.3%. That's it. Donald Trump carried this district in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. And get this. It is one of those districts. It includes parts of Ocean County, and we'll go over some of that when the guest comes on, how that voted 2 Tuesdays ago. And it also includes Burlington County, where he is from and has a presence. All right. And these areas definitely are, I would say, this is a toss-up district, but it's prime Republican territory. But it's also, there are suburbs in this district, both in Burlington and in Ocean counties, that were very susceptible to the mass social desirability bias campaign that they waged against President Donald Trump and Republicans who supported him ever since he was elected, going all the way into 2020. It worked somewhat in 2018, clearly, but it was still very close. But Donald Trump continued to carry the district. He barely carried it this time in this last election, but David Richter, who is a very typical Chamber of Commerce Republican, still managed to lose by a pretty significant margin. Andrew Kim, 53.2% of the vote, actually increased his vote share from a midterm that favored Democrats, while David Richter fell 45.5%. There is a caveat here. The Constitution Party, all right, we have the People Party. The Independent or Constitution Party is what Robert Shapiro ran under in 2020, and Martin Weber, the People Party. Even going back to Lawrence Berlinski in 2018, he ran under the Constitution Party. They have been taking roughly 1.5%. In 2018, it was Andrew Kim's margin. Andrew Kim has made himself a moderate. He is not a moderate. which leads me to bring in my next guest. Uh, Again, it does look like Richter may or may not jump back in the race again. So right now, what I'm trying to basically do here is showcase that this is one of the districts that will likely go. If you compare the swing 2 Tuesdays ago to the Democratic advantage that they have had in recent years in this district is going to be very hard for Andrew Kim to hold on to. And given some of the voting behavior of Chamber of Commerce Republicans lately, it's probably worth talking to people who would go another way.
Yeah.
All right, so let me do that. Let me bring on my guest. His name's Shawn Hyland. How you doing, Shawn? Thanks for joining me today. I appreciate you taking time to be here with us.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. In New Jersey.
So yeah, look, first I want to get your reaction just outright, and then I want to basically introduce you to the viewers, and do what I do with every guest who's running for office. But before we do and we get there, what do you make of what happened in New Jersey 2 weeks ago?
Overall, it was a success. Obviously, the top of the ticket, Jack didn't pull it off. He was in the lead for a long time until some, mail-in balloting came in over so many days, and then he lost that lead in certain districts. But overall, though, there was a pretty big red wave here across the state, with the Republicans picking up a number of Senate seats and Assembly seats. Was one of the more famous ones, as many people would know, would be the state senator Steve Sweeney, who was the most powerful Democrat in the state Senate for decades. The Senate president lost to a truck driver. And so really, it was a really anti-democratic vote in the state. Parents, people are just tired of the infringement of their rights. And they're finally not just speaking up, but actually turning out to the polls and making a difference. So that was a really good success. And even here in Ocean County, where I live and where the district's at, Jack Ciattarelli, he carried our county by 70,000 votes. So we definitely are a red conservative county. I believe in Burlington, he carried it by maybe 18,000 votes, but it was a big win.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna, bring up. Ocean is a Republican county, and it was basically, if I'm rounding here, 68-32. It was a big deal. And then Jack did. Burlington is the more liberal area of the district, without a doubt. But Ciattarelli closed a considerable gap, and it was only those mail-in votes that boosted Murphy a little bit. But in your district, and I can actually show a picture here, give people an idea. Here's overall district, folks. This is geospatial. You can see how very clear it is, even in the voter file in New Jersey statewide, where Republicans represent like 24%. All right. You can clearly see this is Congressional District 3 in New Jersey. Very, very close as far as party registration. The obvious left side of that pie tells you that is the independent and third-party voters. They went heavily Republican 2 weeks ago. So that will tell you how much trouble Andy Kim is in this district right now. To the east, you can see what Ocean County, the more Republican area. Honestly, Shawn, what I look at when I look at these, make political prognostications, and we can get into your background because it'll help, but you're from the other side of the district. So for a Republican to win District 3, the most beneficial formula would be to have a base, have relationships with the voters in the bluer area. And because you're going to carry the redder area if you're the nominee. So, you actually have background, you have a history there. So, I'll just let people, I'm going to let people hear your story basically. And then from that side of the equation, viewers should think about that going forward, how much that could be a benefit. Look at Edward Durr, like you just mentioned, 21-point swing in Gloucestershire. That was the holdout in that district for Sweeney. All the other areas, Salem, Cumberland, they had been moving Republican. Trump had carried Sweeney's district twice, but Gloucestershire was holding out for him because of relationships, because of where Sweeney's from and the friends he had. And ultimately, it didn't save him in the end because Edward Durr he spoke to those people in much the same way. But go ahead, yeah, tell us why you're doing this in the first place. You got a good story, I'd like to hear it.
Yeah, well, I grew up in the county here, grew up in the district all my life, lived here 40 plus years. I'm a hometown guy. I see what's going on in America, see what's going on in our state. I was the executive director of what's called Family Policy Alliance in New Jersey the past 3 years, dealing with parental rights and education, school curriculum, religious freedom, pro-life, and the right to life here in the state of New Jersey. And I'm doing policy work for years now, and being a local minister for decades here in New Jersey, I have a real strong connection to the Ocean County residents. They definitely feel dismissed and disregarded at the state level with Governor Murphy, and even more so at the congressional level with Congressman Andy Kim. He does come into the district and plays very moderate and talks very moderate and comes to all the ceremonies and the small business openings. Then he goes down to Washington, D.C., and he's part of the Progressive Caucus. He votes very radical and very liberal on a host of issues and policies, and simply does not represent our district well, or the views and values of the people here in Ocean County and, of course, Burlington County. And so seeing this on the sideline, I just couldn't simply sit back another election cycle and watch the Republican Party possibly nominate someone who is not really conservative, does not really have the views and the values of the people of this district. And so I didn't want to sit back and watch it happen one more time. So I figured, let me enter into this race. I am concerned about this radical agenda, the far left. They want to disrupt and destabilize society in 4 ways. They want to dismantle the family. They wanted to fund the police. They wanted to demoralize students, and they want to destroy the work ethic. And it's a destructive and divisive agenda, and it has to be stopped. And I'm not afraid of the lies and the labels of the far left. I'll be the checkmate against them in Washington, D.C. But the first step is, of course, is to get into the primary here in June of next year, and then the general election against Congressman Andy Kim.
It's funny you said the work ethic. You're probably one of very few people that I would even be able to talk to about that. It's a pretty big thing for me. It really is something that is ingrained in America that other countries have not had. And that work ethic is so important. We just saw Bureau of Labor Statistics come out. Another 4 million people quit their jobs, even though we're supposedly supposed to have the skills gap and all of these open, these job openings. And they touted that jobs report, but I can't see areas like Ocean and Burlington, even farther south. I can't see them swinging the way they did if there really wasn't twofold. It was, that cultural argument you're making, and then also this economic pain and rising, costs. When you're running around and talking to people in the district, we see it in the polling, but I'm curious to hear what you see on the ground. What is the cost of living issue? What are you hearing from people? Inflation, these concerns?
Yeah, so inflation is a major concern. Let me tell you why. One, because in Ocean County, we have the highest percentage of seniors anywhere in America, including Florida. Ocean County, New Jersey has the highest percentage of seniors anywhere in this country. And many of them are living on fixed income, on Social Security. Now, yeah, of course, Social Security was, raised 5.9%, which was a very, large raise compared to most years. Decades hasn't been raised 5.9%. However, inflation rates have risen 10 to 40% on food and gas. So they're still left behind, and these seniors simply can't catch up. And when the rest of the economy is moving on, they're still falling more and more behind. And also in Ocean, Burlington County, we have the largest percentage of veterans anywhere in the state of New Jersey. So these people who have worked hard, they have fought wars, they're now retired, and they're living here, and they see this country changing and not really taking seniors seriously. So I hear twice from veterans who don't get their answers resolved, and from seniors who feel as though they just simply cannot keep up anymore with the rising inflation rates. And President Biden simply has no answer to this.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. I lived in New Jersey for years, including immediately after I got out of the Army. I would have to go to East Orange, right? And I've lived in both Monmouth and Ocean. And there was, I think there was a Seabach in Bricktown, but that's about it. That was it. It's been one of those states because it's Democratic controlled and veteran issues are not a priority for Democrats. So it really was a skeleton of the VA system that I saw in Florida and other places. It just wasn't that big of an issue. So you have this corner of the district where there are a lot of veterans, and it's, I feel their pain is basically what I'm saying. I remember those letters that would come, Shawn, after 6 months. We're still reviewing this. We're still looking at that. We're still trying to get you an appointment here. It was just crazy. It was not good enough, for people, whether they come back and go to New Jersey or come back and go to Florida. Really shouldn't have to ride all the way to some place, that's not anywhere in your locality to do it, to get some kind of care, to get what really these people deserve, which is a good way to segue into these mandates. I want to hear your thoughts on these mandates because you now hear the Biden administration playing around with the idea that they're going to withhold veterans benefits that they earned. Even comp and pension is apparently on the table if they don't comply. So they're not veterans now, Shawn, but they'll be veterans if they're forced out of the military because of the vaccine mandate. And now that we're going to give them, we're going to punish them even further. We're going to take away their career, but then we're going to punish them even further because there are a lot of people who serve who already have service-connected issues that would give them a comp and pension claim. It's just, what are your thoughts on these mandates and really these punishments, these attempts to punish people that don't agree? Yeah, it's their life. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes me so upset, and so many other people as well. I mean, you see our heroes, okay? So doctors, nurses, teachers, police, men and women, and of course our military, men and women, being financially crippled by the state and federal vaccine mandates. I mean, America can be much better than this. You know, our founding fathers, when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, they acknowledged that our rights come from our Creator. And even President John F. Kennedy said, probably 200 years later, he said that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hand of God. And we cannot allow President Biden and far left congressional Democrats take from us what God has given, our rights. And that's exactly what they're doing with these vaccine mandates, simply taking away your right to make your own medical decisions on what is injected into your body and demanding it or forcing you, crippling you financially until you finally submit to their dictates and their decrees. And that's not the American spirit. That's not the American way. People should be able to make their own choices based upon their own health decisions and what they feel is best for their body with this vaccine and with this virus.
Why do you think Republicans are not doing as much as they could? Especially congressional Republicans, not just the mandates, but the Biden agenda. We see his poll numbers. It's not just us, Suffolk University, they got him at 38. Any other president's agenda would be dead in the water right now. And yet there are these groups of Republicans, this group, the serial offenders, who do this under the banner of bipartisanship too. But whether it's January 6th or helping him pass infrastructure or helping Biden with Build Back Better, which I am sure they will do, they will succumb to it, as will some of the Democratic senators that don't support it. What do you think is going on here in the Republican Party? I mean, 2022 going into this election, I think this is I see this as a moment where Republicans can kind of, clean up the ranks and get a party that actually represents them. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think what we need in Congress is we need real fighters. And to be a real fighter, you have to have real conviction. So if you don't have true conviction on what you believe, if you're depending on the pollsters and on the experts and on the data teams politically to tell you what you believe, that's dangerous. You can't represent the views and values of a district if you don't really have those exact values yourself. That's why me personally, I mean, I've been a minister for years, and so I'm a man of conviction. I know what I believe, I know why I believe it, and I'm not afraid to stand for those beliefs. And when it comes to our constitutional rights and freedoms here in America, America is an exceptional nation, and I want to defend the American way of life from those who seek to undermine it. And some Republicans, unfortunately, not to be too critical of the party, simply don't have that type of strong backbone and conviction to take that stand. Now, on the far left, as radical as they are, they have the conviction of their beliefs, and they will hijack their party. They will push their party to the very extremes where they get what they want. We need that same type of fortitude and confidence and conviction in the Republican Party to hold fast to our principles as well.
Yeah, which brings me to the January 6th issue. I don't think you would ever see Democrats. We talk about what happened on January 6th, but it's not as if there aren't comparable, if not worse, situations of Democratic activists or the Democratic base going nuts on society, which is just brought up in the first 30 minutes of the show. It wasn't Washington, D.C., but they burned police stations to the ground, which the police ceded to them, sadly. But they have, caused an untold number of damage. Kenosha was in the tens of millions that very first couple of nights of those protests. The damage has got to be in the billions if you go nationwide. And on 2016, when Donald Trump was inaugurated, they turned over cars, they smashed up businesses in Washington, D.C. Brett Kavanaugh being confirmed to the U.S. Senate, they stormed the Capitol and pinned Jeff Flake into an elevator. I mean, it's not as if, you know, the protesters on January 6th are alone, and most of these people are being held on nonviolent offenses, and yet you do see members of the Republican Party, aligning with Democrats to persecute these people. So, where do you stand on January 6th? You gotta basically, lay it out for us. What do you think could be done differently here?
Yeah, well, on January 6th, I'll say a few things here. One, I do not believe it's President Trump's fault what happened there at the Capitol. I mean, everyone going down there, they are adults, make their own decisions. I know people myself that were down in D.C. that day praying for this country. They were not at all motivated or incentivized to somehow violently storm the Capitol. So whoever did that, got in the Capitol or assaulted the police, I mean, they need to be held accountable for that. But to put that on the President Trump, who simply had a rally for his presidency and what he believed in no way should have led to violence whatsoever. And so I see people all the time trying to blame the president for that, when actually we have seen, like I said, Democratic elected officials for the past few years actually call for violence, here in America, especially during the protests. Maxine Waters calling for violence from her supporters, to harass, intimidate people who worked in President Trump's cabinet if they seen them out at a restaurant. And that's what's so dangerous and deadly, when you have other people on the one side of the aisle, literally, very clearly, not just with hidden code words, but very clearly calling for violence to their followers, to harass people who are conservative in nature. And yet there's no accountability for that, because the media allows them to slip away without holding them accountable. And they're really controlling the narrative over this nation. So if you love this country, somehow you're the bad person in the narrative. And if you are critical and hateful against this country, you're the hero in the narrative. And that's exactly what the Democrat Party and the mainstream media is doing right now. And it's very troubling, and it has to stop.
Yeah, Maxine Waters, countless comments. Barack Obama, during the passage of Obamacare, told basically his supporters to get in their neighbors' faces, right? I mean, the list goes on and on. It's certainly, it's arbitrary, right? So the outrage is selective. Do we get as angry over certain situations that have to deal with Democrats, as we do with Republicans? Donald Trump goes to speak in Chicago in 2016, and that was very clearly a Democratic operation. They did not want him talking in an inner city, so they went ballistic. 4 police officers were hurt, and mum was the word, Shawn. And I think there's a frustration there by Republican voters who ultimately just don't feel as represented as their Democratic counterparts, right? If Republicans take the House of Representatives in 2022, what do you think the first thing, what has to be at the top of their agenda to represent people?
Well, I think number one is to, do some open public hearings on the election integrity in this country. And that's one of the major issues people say all the time is election integrity. We can't trust the process here in the greatest democracy on earth and how people are elected to office. The future of our democracy is in question. And right now, there's no reason why we shouldn't be asking those tough questions. In 2020, we had the most unorthodox, unconventional election in the history of all democracies. I mean, there's a pandemic. Many states, like here in New Jersey, were on lockdown. We weren't even allowed to go to the polls. We had to vote by mail. And after this crazy, chaotic election process in 2020, the first thing the Democrats do is introduce H.R. 1, and later became H.R. 4, to change the federalized elections here on 4th. And change election laws, ban voter ID across the country, automatically mail everybody a paper ballot. I mean, the very things that made 2020 so unorthodox and unconventional and mistrustful is the very thing the Democrats tried to impose day one on the American people. And so they realized that election integrity in this country is in question. And the Republicans, if we get back the House in 2022, and we will, we need to have those tough questions publicly in committee hearings so people can trust the process moving forward.
Yeah, I think Republicans are going to take it too in 2022. It's not just what we have seen the last couple of weeks and what we have seen in the polling. History is on their side, and the president is deeply unpopular. So I think it's a favorite right now, but it doesn't help if there are more Adam Kinzingers, right? So it doesn't help the Republican base if there are more Adam Kinzingers in Congress or more Liz Cheneys in Congress. And frankly, you don't have a crowded field yet, but the candidate who ran last time may jump in, or somebody like him. I'm curious of your thoughts as why you put yourself forward. I know you spoke a little bit about it. You spoke to this, in the beginning here, but give people the reason basically on why they should take a look at you as opposed to, another candidate, just any other Republican that jumps in the race. Because I will tell this to viewers again, I really do think whoever gets nominated in this district is going to be the next congressman or woman, whatever, from this district. So I guess, that's what I'd like you to speak to.
Sure, absolutely. So, the far left said years ago they were going to fundamentally transform this country, and they were incrementally successful at doing that back in the Obama administration. And then the America First movement rose up here and said, no, we're going to put America first once again. And the far left quickly realized that they cannot fundamentally transform this country because people love this country. So they said, we're going to teach them and tell them to hate their own country. And that's what we see right now in this current political and cultural moment, that America is facing a crisis like no other. It's much more than an economic crisis that's very real with rising inflation costs, as we said, out of control spending, as I'm sure we've been talking about for weeks now, and the broken supply chain. But it's more than that. It's more than just a national security crisis with, the Chinese party, disrupting the global order and Afghanistan falling into the hands of a terrorist government. It's more than a health crisis with the pandemic and, vaccine mandates and shutdowns, as horrible as it is on small businesses. There's another crisis that's beyond that. And it's more than a border crisis with, deaths at the border and illegal immigration at all-time levels and human traffickers taking advantage of unprotected entry points, all real challenges our country must face. But the biggest crisis America is facing right now, it's an identity crisis. What is America? And who are we as Americans? According to the far left, America is the problem in the world. But myself, I believe America's existence is a force for good in the world. I believe America is better than how the far left has described us to be. They intentionally use hatred, animosity, and offense to undermine this country. But I believe in a better America, one that advances human rights, distributes global resources, restrains communism, defeats terrorism, and protects the religious freedom of all people. And my wife, my adult children, they're immigrants. I mean, they come here because they believe America has given them a chance at a better life. And I see the sacrifices of our veterans. I see the taxes of our workers. It has benefited the world. But in opposition to that is the far left and the radical, destructive, divisive agenda. And many people are afraid of the far left, both in the Democrat Party and surely in the Republican Party. And I'm one person. I will not be silenced or intimidated by them. I will defend the American way of life. And I think that's why people should elect me to Congress, because I will stand up for America and our values.
Yeah, I think you really said a mouthful there. The identity crisis stuck with me. We talk about this about the Republican Party quite a bit, but Shawn, the Democrats are in an identity crisis too. It's just not as well spoken about, or as frequently spoken about. You think the far left is, clearly winning here, right? So let's just, take Build Back Better. I know for a fact, and even somebody from a locals community brought this up, but they're exactly right. There are more than 2 senators, Democratic senators, who don't support Build Back Better, and in fact did not support the infrastructure bill. But they caved, Shawn. They caved, and they're not even part of the discourse right now. It just seems to me, we can't get by with 2 so-called moderate senators, protecting the public from an unpopular agenda. It does to me seem like the more radical left-wing wing of the party, or whatever you want to call it, is winning.
And it is. I mean, I think they are very destructive, but they're very, they harass and they intimidate and they don't play fair. Yeah, they scare people. They use scare tactics even within their own party to leverage and take advantage of people who don't have that sense of conviction and strength to stand up against them. And Democrat Party and the Republican Party one time simply disagreed on the size and scope of government. How much government do we want in our lives? And it was a policy debate that we'd have every cycle. But it's different now. It's no longer about the size and scope of government. It's those who love America and those who are against America. And the far left, in their academia, in their media, in their universities, as I said, I mean, they are in many ways against America. They want to undermine our values, our traditions, our culture, our history, and even at some points take away our rights. And we need both parties, both Democrat and Republican. We need people of all ethnic groups, all religions, to really unite together to defend America from the far left, so we can then really unite this country, build it stronger, fair, equal, and embrace the American principles of individualism, freedom, and opportunity for everybody.
They do reign. And, I was looking at this video a couple of days ago. This poor woman, Kirsten Sinema, Senator Sinema from Arizona, was attending a wedding, so of a family friend. And this left-wing crowd showed up and started harassing the mother of the bride that would not let this wedding proceed without this disruption. I mean, imagine trying to get married with a crowd of angry, screaming people on the other side of the fence yelling at you. It must have been hard. But aside from when your children are born, your wedding day is supposed to be one of the happiest days of your life, and it's being ruined by something like that. Ultimately, Sinema did then vote. It wasn't the only occasion. I'm sure it wasn't all that, weighed on her, but bullying tactics work. And in the end, do you think there's more that Republican voters could do to get their representatives to listen more? Because clearly, Sinema's population, her electorate in Arizona, does not support this agenda. And she knows that. And that's why she held out as long as she did. But ultimately, she got in line. The bullying and the threats and the articles on the New York Times. I mean, they heard after a while, and she folded. I mean, that's it. But Kevin McCarthy took a lot of criticism for not reining in those members who voted for the infrastructure bill. Do you really think there's anything Kevin McCarthy could have done more about that?
Well, I know there's a lot of question right now about his leadership on the infrastructure bill. I'm not sure what kind of influence, what pressure he put on the Republicans to vote no. I can't speak into that. I'm not down there. I am disappointed in those who voted yes. I mean, if the bill was a standalone bill, make the decision you want to make. But everyone knew once that bill went through, it opened up the floodgates to a socialist spending bill. And that was the only way really stopping that from any momentum, is to stop that first infrastructure bill. And they didn't hold their ground. And then that's disappointing. Whether that's on the individual congressional level or on a leadership level, I can't really say. But I know when I go down there, I'll make sure that our principles of conservatism is first and foremost in every decision that I make.
Yeah, everybody asks, every candidate that I come on, here, if you go to D.C., they always want me to ask people this. If you go to D.C., generally speaking, there's probably going to be 2 Republican candidates, outsiders, and I would definitely characterize your campaign as an outsider campaign, especially if they decide to bring an establishment guy in. But would you go there, generally trying to, unite people, or as a bomb thrower? What would we be able to expect out of Shawn Hyland if he got elected?
Yeah, well, I'll say this. I'm not a flamethrower, but I am a truth teller. Some people are going to say the truth. And I think that's the problem.
It's going to tick some people off, Shawn.
But, some people like to use the anger and throwing the flames and the bombs to get social media attention. Other people won't say anything, kind of work under the radar. I'm simply going to say the truth. And I think if America hears the truth about our policies and about our rights and about the direction of our country, it's going to resonate with most people. Now, some will be, like you said, upset with that, because truth sometimes expose lies what they are. But I think America needs to hear the truth and make a decision on what this country needs to be moving forward. And I do believe once we hear it once again, we're going to choose our constitutional rights and liberties above everything else. Yeah.
I think I call it the Walker factor. I think that goes a long way with people, even if they don't agree with you. If they still know where you stand and they know what they can, what can be expected of you, and they know that you're always going to come down where you say you're going to come down. This is Shawn. I know Shawn. I know the kind of guy he is. I know what, even if I disagree with him on this issue, I still know that he's a man of conviction, and he's going to be, here on this side of the issue when the time counts. I can't tell you how many voters told us over time and time again that's why they voted for Governor Walker. So even though they were not, these were Obama voters. So I call it like the Walker effect. It's amazing what telling the truth will do. And it's become this hot commodity, this rare commodity, I should say, which is sad. Laura says it's sad, but that's just where we're at. And we have like a percentage of one party who does it against the tide of deception. So it's certainly something that's needed. Well, tell everybody where they could learn more about you, Shawn, and find you and follow what you're doing.
Yeah, great. Well, you go to highlandforcongress.com, where it's HYLAND, and it's for FOR. So highlandforcongress.com. That's our main website. And then, of course, on social media, facebook.com. And it's, again, Highland for Congress, spelled it out. We have our Facebook page there, and Twitter, Instagram as well. On Twitter, we're Highland #4 Congress, because the user handle is too big. But that's how you find us online. And we have a great video we had a kickoff rally just 2 weeks ago here in the district, over 200 and a kickoff rally on day number 1, launched the campaign with 200 people standing there. It was amazing energy to win in 2022. There's a highlight video on our Facebook page as well. Check it out, share it with other people. You can hear what I'm saying and why I would be the voice against the far left. And I hope to have your support to get this message to more and more voters.
Yeah, you got some energy there. I did check out some of the stuff, and there are a couple of campaigns that really have this year that have some potential to really become more like a movement. And it's cliche, but it's true, to become more of a movement, because people are just looking for someone to defend them. And I really think I saw that in what I've seen from your campaign, Shawn. So, best of luck, and come back, really soon, and tell us what keep us informed, keep us updated on what's been going on. We'd love to have you back.
I sure will. Thank you, Rich, for the opportunity. I'll talk to you again soon.
All the best, Shawn. That is Shawn Hyland, ladies and gentlemen. Again, New Jersey Congressional 3. Okay, so Congressional District 3. That district is going to go. All right, now that it's just me and I can talk again, that district's going to go. And I don't know how else to put this. I've spoken to him. I know him. That's a man of conviction.
Yes.
All right. Versus a very plain Chamber of Commerce, Paul Ryan Republican.
Mm-hmm.
That is the choice for Republican voters in Congressional District 3 right now, and take that how you want to take it. All right. But if I still lived in Ocean County.
I mean,
all right,
the man is he didn't have to do this at all. So.
No. That's what we've been looking for, in case people haven't been noticing. All right. That's what Laura and I have been looking for. I don't really want to interview a bunch of people. It's not my thing. I want to interview people who I think are actually putting themselves out to be civil servants. And like Joe Kemp, not for nothing. Right? We found Joe. But we saw him and we were like, you know what? This guy doesn't need to do this. Shawn doesn't need to do this. And
Shawn has a happy life.
Shawn has a happy life. Things are good for him. Why do I feel like we need to do this? Because I feel like the loss of a man who similarly had a happy life, who did not need what he brought upon himself to be a public servant. Now, you may hate him. You may hate his personality. You may love his personality. We all know I'm talking about Donald Trump. What we all can agree on is that he absolutely did not need to do this. He didn't take a damn paycheck, and he became public enemy number 1. Nobody put it better than Don King, that they hate him because the system is built for him, and he betrayed the system for the everyday person, and that has to be punished and made an example of. They love Donald Trump, folks. New York Times loved Donald Trump.
Rappers
the black community loved Donald Trump. Everybody loved Donald Trump until he ran as a Republican who didn't owe anybody anything. And his loss could have led to 2 things. The scaring away of people like Shawn and others who are just everyday people. Everyday people who think they have experiences and convictions that they can bring to the table to help make the country a better place and to help represent people who are not represented. And how Donald Trump was treated could have scared these people away, and that would have been our tragedy. That would have been a demon of our own design. Richard Bookstaver, book tip, even though it's economic, you all understand what I'm talking about. But bottom line is, there are people out there and they're not letting that happen to them. And they're doing, and I see, when I look at their campaigns, I see an opportunity for, like, when you're a political guy, folks, it's like magic. Something happens. It's like a spark goes off. Look at Joe. Look at perfect example. Something magical is happening there. Donald Trump in 2015, I saw it. That's why he quote tweeted that tweet. I saw it. And I said, he's not full of crap. He's not a clown. Charles Krauthammer's an idiot. All right. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The guy hasn't left. No, I'm not trying to bust his chops or anything, but he hasn't left his wheelchair in his cubicle all the way, for years. He does not in connection with the American people. He's been sitting in D.C. in a cubicle, behind a desk, whatever it may be, on a boat. Right. He has no idea what to look for anymore. This guy's not a clown. Something's happening. It's going to be magic. I don't know how to describe it. If you have it and you can see it, you can see it. And then these people go on typically not to disappoint, which is the difference. Barack Obama was probably the biggest disappointment because he had it.
He had the
And we
ability
could
to
see
do
it.
so much.
He had it. And he squandered it. He squandered such a golden opportunity. Why do you think so many Republicans had a high approval of him in the beginning of his campaign? Many people instinctively can see it. You know what? This guy has an opportunity to do something great and wonderful. He blew it, which is why he collapsed. But, there were a lot of people who could see it. And of course, I didn't mean that as some kind of, don't give me that look. I didn't mean that as some derogatory thing. I'm simply saying the man was not mobile. He didn't go anywhere outside of his little, his trips with his National Review friends. I admired his experience and the depth, but you can be the most intellectual person in the world, but the minute you lose touch, it's worth nothing.
Exactly.
So anyway, and by the way, all of those people were Reagan haters. Let's not forget that. So it's not like I got to go give them some kind of deference or something. They were all Reagan haters. Mondale supporter, the guy was. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed that. We'll come back. We'll bring Shawn back on in a bit and see how he's doing because, we want to track a handful of these campaigns, especially those that we know are very movable. There obviously, as I have been arguing, is a bigger, most people say it's around 2 to 3, maybe 4% that's truly persuadable. I've always thought it was more than that. It's just that we're rigid in our beliefs, our initial beliefs, which is why online panel polling was something I experimented with way before anybody else or most other people, and they mocked me for it. But my general idea was that swings are artifacts of polls in most cases, and you can actually find whether the electorate's going to go one way or the other pretty early on, is not using a head-to-head, but using a controlled group, representative controlled group. And it's just that the percentage of persuadable is bigger, and you got to know who they are. And I think that is very clear from the results in New Jersey. That's true. And when you look at, just to give you guys some numbers, and I can give you the actual, if you want, I might have put it up recently. I think I did, but if I didn't, in New Jersey, 3 unaffiliated voters outnumber everybody, Democrats and Republicans. Unaffiliated voters are just under 200,000, 192,674. Libertarians, conservatives, Constitution parties, they're like in the 1,500 range. Green is just under 1,000. Other, about 600. Natural law, 482. Reform, 128. And then there's one designation that is a clerical error called U. I'm not kidding. It's a clerical error. And one person's record is filed under it. But you generally get the idea. There's 169,000, just under 170,000 Democrats and about 156,000 Republicans. So you can see the DR split. It's about D plus 2, but overwhelmingly independents outnumber by 30,000 votes. They outnumber the closest two-party vote. So when independents swing the way they did 2 Tuesdays ago, Andy Kim gets wiped out. Andy Kim loses by 10 points or more. He's gone.
People are not happy.
He's gone. Right. And I suspect in the post-Trump era, with people like Shawn running, it'll be easier to keep the voters that Donald Trump brought to the table.
Yeah.
So 192,674 independents are going to swing toward the Republican candidate. 169,942 Democrats are not going to vote for Andy Kim.
there's going to be a nice chunk of them, probably around 10%, that will vote for a Republican that they feel is more in line with their values. There will be 2% of the 156,000 Republicans who will vote for Andy Kim. That's just not going to happen. Not in this election cycle. But if you pick a Chamber of Commerce Republican in New Jersey 3, you'll get a smaller swing with independents and you'll get almost no crossovers with Democrats. That 10% crossover will go down to like 4 to 6. What could have been a 10 to 15 point, margin with independents will be like a 3 to 5. And Andy Kim will win by about 1.5% again. Or worse, Richter lost by 6. He really fell on his face. But the bench for the Republican establishment is not deep there. And it's a golden opportunity for an outsider who has an activist background, who has a policy background, to take that race. So we'll have Shawn back on. We'll have others like him. We're scouring all over the map. I found another one, by the way, in Michigan, which we'll talk about soon. Okay? All right, I'm not going to get into it. There may be 2 in Michigan. I'm just not sure yet. Depends how one conducts themselves. Not sure. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be back. We'll do some questionnaire stuff. We'll do some Q&A stuff. We'll bring on Dawn. All right? You're watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. You can follow me on Getter at People's Pundit. Listen, we're just under halfway there with the Public Polling Project. It's Friday. Next weekend's Thanksgiving, isn't it? I don't know how I feel about polling over Thanksgiving weekend. I kind of wanted to poll this weekend. Thursday, the good news is if we wait till Saturday, more people will be reached. It's the week after that? All right, then that's it then. This is the home stretch, you're telling me. It's the home stretch. Share the Public Polling Project far and wide. Let's get this thing funded. Even if it gets close, I know it's the holidays, I'll pull the trigger. All right, but right now we're about, a third? 2, 4, about a third. A little over a third on our way to just under half. All right, so look, we'll be back in 2 minutes. Leave you with the Bowen Band. You're watching Inside the Numbers.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats is restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. Steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for overnight. Just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker.
Yeah, I'm just one of those people. I need to be reminded when holidays are. Christmas, obviously, not so much, but Thanksgiving moves every year. Okay, it's not a set day, so
It's the third
it's one of those things I
Thursday.
see where like he doesn't know when Thanksgiving is. Come on, do you? All right, all right, all right.
He's not the one who cooks anyway.
Yeah, so my wife makes an incredible bird. Laura's bird is the best bird ever in the history of birds.
He's not biased at all.
And I'm not biased. It's that good. And I look forward to it. I love Thanksgiving, but I do make the stuffed mushrooms. I do that.
Yes, you do.
That's an Italian thing. Probably everybody doesn't do that, but it's really it. All right. So I see this conversation about basically what we did an episode on. It's the topic of it anyway. Guys aren't talking about it, but the perversion of science and data. And I want to speak to the conversation. I'm saying it's generally the case now. It's sad because especially with everything being politicized, that's really what perverts it. But a consensus is very easy to create, even if it's not true, especially when you're looking at environmental consensus. All right. You're only going to get funding, folks, if you are coming down on the issue in one way. It's very easy to get a polling consensus that isn't true. I think we all know that by now. And it's certainly now, sadly, perhaps the most dangerous of it all is that you can get a public health consensus, even if it's not true. And you do that by muting the voices of those who dissent, even if they may not even be in the minority. They may be a majority. You can have a consensus that's a minority view. It's actually quite easy. All right. So, yeah, exactly. Johnny Dirt has it right here. Boom, putting that right up on the screen. That's exactly right. And the same way that polling is funded by certain media outlets, right? That's why we have the Public Polling Project, because I don't have anybody to answer to but you. If I wasn't right in Virginia, you'd have been pretty pissed off with me, wouldn't you? Right? If I wasn't at least an accurate reflection of Virginia, you'd have been pretty pissed off at me. And same thing with 2020. That's what makes the Public Polling Project so unique and also the most trustworthy, aside from the transparency issue. Anybody else notice? We didn't get very many crosstabs from some of those other polls. They take like 4 days to put them out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
I think they copy and paste from you.
Some of them are starting. I think some of them are starting to do just that. All right, but you know what? Fine, Laura. If that's what it takes, fine. I am happy to be imitated because, as my followers know, as Grandma always told me, imitation is the highest form of flattery, and I'll take it. All right, even if I don't get credit for it, as long as we're steering them in the right direction, it's a win in my book. It's a win. All right, so real quick on the Public Polling Project, I'll talk more about this with the locals community later. Oh, that's the show announcement I wanted to make. Putting the brakes on the Public Polling Project very quickly. Locals, I think I figured out how to work this Zoom book club thing. All right. I'm going to be emailing some people. All right. Feel under no obligation. I just want to run something by you. But I think I know how to make this work. All right. And it will be cool. So keep an eye out for that. Again, back to the Public Polling Project, just to tell everybody, we'll run through this with the locals community more, but I really focused heavily on issues in this one. All right. And we're already, that fatigue score is a big deal for me. All right. It was designed for a reason. And if we go too crazy, then we will lose. And I'll show you I'll show it to you right now. In fact, let me just zoom in so you don't see some other clients' information. All right, let me zoom in. That should cut it off right there. You know what? If I go to share, doesn't share do it? Or test? That's right. All right, so look at how big this survey is already. And our fatigue score is in the middle of the green bar. All right, and that is already a little high for me. Even though it's in the green, it still scares me when it's that much in the green. Okay. Where is it? Oh, right. I automatically didn't do it this time.
Boom. Here's the fatigue score for the Public Polling Project Fall 2021 National Survey. The estimated length of the interview is 8 minutes. The fatigue score is halfway through the appropriate area. I don't like that. That scares me already. Accessibility is great. All right. But 8 minutes is already a long interview for me, folks. I'm a 6 to 8 minute interview kind of guy. That's my max range. We're at 31. Let me just make sure I'm correct about this. With demographics and everything, we're already up to 39. That's a very large questionnaire. We can add some of the COVID suggestions that we had talked about, because it's weird how it scores and it counts. Like a matrix question, you can add an entirely different question to a matrix format, and it doesn't count as an additional 40 questions. It will just count towards the duration of the interview, accessibility, and fatigue. And I'm telling you this again, you go anywhere near that orange bar, and we're going to lose a significant demographic group, multiple, that we need. And I am not willing to dump any of the favorability rating trackers or anything else right now, because it all will matter so much as we gear up into this year stretch headed towards 2022. All right. And also, the most important issues. I chose to focus quite a bit on that. If you chose cost of living this time, inflation, cost of living, taxation, whatever, we're going to redirect you like kind of how we did in California, only more in Virginia. We want to know what issue you're talking about. If you choose election reform, right? Are you more the pro-democratic, pro-Republican view of election reform? You want more strict reforms? We don't need to do that one. I'm just using an example. And the reason why is because we've polled so many election reform issues by now. And we know the overwhelming majority of the country views election reform to mean what Republicans view it to mean, to include a large chunk of Democrats who just don't even realize that they agree with Republicans because of the media, our friends in the media. And I use that for sarcasm. That was sarcasm. All right. Friends don't lie to each other. Enemies lie to each other. Friends don't try to hurt each other. Enemies try to hurt each other. Friends don't do things that can hurt prosperity of their friends, relationships of their friends, the child welfare of their friends' children. Enemies do all of these things. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to bring my buddy Don in here. We're going to answer some questions. All right. I just want to tee that up as we get into the locals thing for later, so you guys know kind of where I'm coming from. If you chose COVID as your most important issue, are you more pro mitigation or anti mitigation? What control? Who do you want to see control Congress? Who do you trust more? Who do you blame more? These are the things that will matter as we go forward. All right. All right. So now I'm going to bring in my good buddy. You know him, you love him, Don from the Don Smith Show. And we're going to do a little back and forth before we hit the Q&A real soon. How you doing, my friend Don? How are you today? Thanks for joining us.
Living the dream. Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody.
It was your turn for that. Already a big questionnaire coming up, Don. I'm always, you know this because we talk like privately all the time. I get very scared of the 8-minute mark. I don't like it. You know, I am a big believer that people abandon. Well, I'm not a big believer. I mean, I can prove it. That people abandon surveys after certain periods of time, and that those people are disproportionately beneficial to one party over the other in any given electorate. So that's a big, by the way, big criticism I've always had of the media polling. But I do think it's important to ask and add some questions about, mandating children before going to school, the impact they believe this has had to the economy, things of that nature. Because, what we've talked about this 72 hours before that election in Virginia, he came out and he said, I'm not going to support mandates. I think that had a huge impact on those late deciders who otherwise would have been Republican voters, but are sick of being duped by, like the managed decline candidate.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And Youngkin doing that put some of them at ease. I know it did.
Yep.
I know it. I saw it in the numbers. So I think it had a big deal. What'd you think of Shawn Hyland, who's running my guest? Did you get a chance to view that interview? What was your take from Shawn Hyland running out in New Jersey, 3rd Congressional District?
So I only caught actually the last 5 minutes. I had a campaign meeting that I was just getting off of, so I got in as soon as I could.
Understandable. It's the silly season coming up.
It is. Yeah, a lot of exciting stuff going on. But yeah, what I caught of it was really good, and what I know of him is really good. We need more people like that in Congress, and the campaign meeting I was just on was kind of address that as well. So yeah, we need good people. We need fighters. We need people not afraid to say what they really mean and be honest with people. And he seems like he fits in that category. So yeah, I'm going to go back and watch the rest of it, because yeah, I really like this guy.
Me personally, Don, I'll take the truth over the firebrand or bomb thrower any day.
Yep.
Because, people have been in this for as long as we have. We've seen a lot of bomb throwers. We've seen a lot of firebrands. In Donald Trump, we got both, right? I mean, he was, he would make stupid little mistakes about, the Washington Post lie tracker. Where's their tracker now for Biden, who lies about everything? Every time he opens his mouth, it's a lie. And the difference between him and Trump is Trump didn't lie about big things. Trump would make like stupid assertions about dumb little things. Vote by mail was a perfect example. He would say things that made my life more difficult, because it was like, listen, Mr. President, this is why vote by mail, universal vote by mail, is not the same as absentee ballot voting, like we've seen in Florida for years. So please stop making incorrect assertions. But generally speaking, he was right about its ability to be exploited. And Biden lies about big things, about who is and who is not being infected, and viral loads of children, and risks to kids, and he lies about big things. The Charlottesville hoax, going back to his very campaign announcement. Donald Trump never lied about something big like that, right? I mean, not that I remember. And I'll take a truth teller over a firebrand any day, because truth tellers win arguments easier than firebrands. Firebrands tend to get people to go back in their respective corners. In a district like Shawn's, somebody who is much more, just a man of conviction, who is not a firebrand, but a truth teller, can connect with people. I brought up the example of Walker kind of metaphorically. But that's, I mean, it's like very hoaxy Midwest. New Jersey 3 is there a lot of, it's decent people in New Jersey 3, and they like Trump. He carried that district twice, even while Republicans lost it like a bunch of losers. All right, but Richter's a loser. Now that Shawn's off and I can do what I got to do, Richter's a loser, and you will lose if Richter runs again, and you nominate him, New Jersey. I'm just telling you right now, the guy has loser written over his forehead like Mitt Romney. He somehow lost the district by a greater margin than in 2018.
That takes time.
While Trump carried it. What a loser. I'm sorry, that is not worth anybody's money or time. It's like maybe the Chamber of Commerce is doing cartwheels if he decides to get back in. That's it. Go through his filings, folks. Go through his FEC filings and then get back to me. All right? We'll talk about this again. You tell me whether he was running because he was a man of deep conviction or not. Get out of here. This guy is a man of deep conviction, and I think there's a common thread. I didn't want to get too much into his faith, but he is a man of faith, and I think that you need, whether it's Christianity, whether it's whatever, you need a belief in something, Don, when you get to Capitol Hill, because these people will eat you up, and this ultimately is a self-governing society that is supposed to be predicated on the idea that the rights that they're supposed to be safeguarding aren't, privileges from government. They're gifts from God that cannot be taken away. If you don't believe that, then I don't know what you're doing there. And there's a pattern. People who are full of crap, who play lip service to it, they pay lip service, they get there, they fold like an omelet, and you know what? They're voters.
It's conviction, right? Do you have conviction or do you not have conviction? That was the thing with Donald Trump. So maybe some people didn't like, and I don't always like either, the way he said things, or, sometimes he phrased things a little, but we all know.
Either, and you know that.
Yeah. But you knew that he really believed that. And all you got to do was look at those press conferences he would do before he would get on Marine One. I mean, he'd stand there for an hour and a half, and anybody who could ask anything they wanted of him. That is not a typical politician. A typical politician has their messaging all down, and they regurgitate the same thing over and over again, and they don't respond to off-the-cuff questions. And that was the thing with Trump. You could ask him anything, and he would tell you exactly what he thought about it. He didn't have to think about it or think how he was going to phrase it. Maybe sometime he should have spent a little time thinking about that. But I would rather have the truth. Like you said, I'd rather have the truth than a polished answer. And that's what we need more of. We need fighters. We need people who really believe in something. So whether it's on a foundation of religion or whatever it is, just some kind of a moral conviction that this is what I'm going to do, and then do it.
Religion and morality are indispensable supports of our republic. George Washington. All right. End of story. And I could keep going because there's a million of them, but I think that really just says it all. Sister told you. Great question. Do you think COVID will still be an issue next cycle? And I think she meant November 2022, but we all know what you mean, sister. I do think it will be an issue, not a top issue. And I think the intensity will be anti-mitigation. So I think as it helped Biden and Democrats last November, it will help Republicans next November because people are over this. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. Okay. And then this kind of goes back to what you and I talked about throughout the entire course of the pandemic from the very beginning. It depends on where you live. Right? Do you have a fighter like a Ron DeSantis, even Greg Abbott for that matter, and some others? Do you have that in your state, or do you have the Phil Murphys? Do you have these kind of people who are going to try to make it a big part of this election process? So I think it depends a little bit on that, but I agree with you. They're going to lose more and more people every day. They're already talking about the booster jab. So now you're not even going to be fully vaccinated. You're going to wake up one day, not be fully vaccinated. So you got to get the booster. Then you got to upload that information to your company website. Then there's going to be another booster and another upload to the website. More about the kids. They're going to go after the kids younger than 5. The more steps they take in this direction, the more people they lose. And so,
by the way, Don, we're getting ready to add something to the survey about that stuff. You know it. My kids both got, all 3 actually, caught COVID, 2 school-aged, kicked it like it was nothing. Pfizer's report flat out says that there was no difference between the vaccinated children and the placebo group if they had if there was evidence they were previously infected with COVID, any strain. So I just don't, let me just put this as clear as I can. There is no damn way I am vaccinating my children with this vaccine. There's no damn way, Don, it's not going to happen. I will homeschool these children, or I will find them someplace where they don't have the vaccine mandate, or someplace that's willing to hold out until the courts deal with it. Because there is a legal question about whether or not you can impose a mandate on a vaccine like this that doesn't meet the threshold. It doesn't meet the legal precedent. And I'm not a lawyer, but it does not. And there's just no way. Moving on, speaking of mandates, Youngkin, like I said, did promise. And immediately after that, along with calls from Republican viewers that you should run against Ronna McDaniel and be the next Republican National Committee chairman. All right. I'm not kidding you. That's what people are saying in the chat room. Then why doesn't Don replace Ronna? Because Republicans will never be serious until Ronna is gone. That's what's going on in the chat room right now. Think it over, Don. Anyway,
do it, Don.
Think it over, Don.
Call me.
Can we trust? Call me. Can we trust Youngkin? Republican voters want to know. That's a great question.
I sure hope so.
Don't know yet is the answer. I don't like some of the staffing decisions I'm seeing. All right. I don't like it at all. Personnel is policy. Ronald Reagan. Okay. Donald Trump made terrible personnel choices, and that became a problem. I am seeing Trump hating, CRT supporting. I just can't believe it. After campaigning against critical race theory, I just can't believe he brought this woman on board. I'm not gonna get into it yet. We'll do a segment on her when we can, but maybe she's a minority voice in the administration. What do you think, Don?
Yeah,
I don't like personnel decisions that scare me, buddy.
It goes back to exactly what we started talking about: conviction. Do you have the conviction? Because you can sell people a bill of goods. You can win the election and we all cheer, yay, Youngkin won. But now is the test. Does he have the conviction? So this campaign meeting I just got off of was to replace somebody who appeared to have conviction, got elected, and then ended up voting to impeach Donald Trump, along with many other things that they voted for. So they're Republican, but it's Rhino. It's Republican in name only. And so that's why I'm going to help get this guy out. We're going to escort him to the door and send him packing back to Michigan, because you get a chance to prove it, right? So Youngkin now, I'm going to give him a chance. I'm going to say, okay, come on, don't let us down. And the second he lets us down, that's it. It's time to mount a challenge, get a fight going, and get him out.
Yeah, I got to tell you, that somebody knew who I was talking about. So I put it up there on the screen. That's exactly who I'm talking about. That kind of stuff bothers me. These are the losers who have been taking money out of the pockets of working Republicans and then also big donor Republicans for years, but have done nothing with that money other than write stupid policy papers or fake news on cheap blogs that didn't persuade anybody, didn't convince anybody. Jim DeMint would vomit on the lap of. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, if anybody was, somebody who tried to change that crew, it was somebody like Jim DeMint. But ultimately, he ran into a situation much like Trump, that is surrounded by these people who aren't doing it because they're the best at it, or because they're effective, or this is their gig. This is their shtick. You know what a shtick is? I don't know if anybody else knows what I'm talking about. It's this shtick. They're racket. They're racket. Yeah. They don't serve a purpose. Nobody takes them seriously. Maybe once in a while they'll get a quote in Fox News. It'll say study finds, and then everyone in the comment section proceeds to say this is a right-wing think tank. Who cares? I mean, it's so pointless. But all of that costs some donor $100,000. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's just total waste of money. When you could go to the campaign websites of people, Don, or I don't want to get into it, but you could just simply go directly to the campaign websites of people you support, and that money is better spent.
Yeah, it's all of this is always a part of. There's always a part of this that's the John McCain syndrome, where the candidate gets in, and so maybe they do have some convictions, and they maybe really believe those things. Then they get in there, and they're so worried about, is CNN going to say mean things about me? Are these people going to like me? Am I going to offend these people? And that's when it comes back to the conviction. It's like, screw them. Who cares if CNN, of course, CNN's not going to say anything good about you. Of course they're not.
Never.
But that was always the John McCain thing, was he always wanted to be the reasonable Republican. And that's how they always described him. They hated his guts. Look what they did to him when he ran for president. And then he just forgets that. And he goes, well, I'm going to go back to being the reasonable Republican. No, have conviction, do what you said you were going to do, and represent the people that voted for you to get you there in the first place. So I think it's always, I call it the John McCain syndrome.
Between immigration and healthcare, I'm not sure I saw an incumbent lie as badly as John McCain outwardly to fend off a challenge against a conservative who, until everybody, because what does he get in return from that? Well, if somebody like Kelly Ward decides to run against him, what does he get? He gets, her marginalization, her pundits all over the news saying that, well, if by the off chance she defeats McCain, then they're going to lose that seat. I've long believed, that base voters, especially in midterms, like she challenged him in, base voters are key to winning those kinds of races. It was like ridiculous to think Martha McSally would be a stronger candidate than Kelly Ward. That's stupid Washington think. That's dumb Washington think, as we always, call it. Kelly Ward would have probably kept that seat. I'm serious. She probably would have kept it very, very tight, but would have kept it. Why? Because Kelly Ward won the same group of those voters that we identified, Laura. In Arizona, they couldn't stand Martha McSally.
and they were going for Donald Trump by 30 points, but they really didn't even like Martha McSally, and in the end, Kelly was carrying them by 7 points. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yep.
That's why that group was basically the majority of the difference between the presidential margin and the Senate margin. And going back to her loss in 2018, she needed those voters. Those are the voters who don't always vote, and Republicans needed them. And Kelly Ward would have gotten those voters, Don. I mean, she absolutely would have. And here's John McCain, going even before that, she challenged John McCain. And here he is talking about how he's a leader on border wall security and how he led the fight to stop Obamacare, even though Obamacare didn't get stopped. And then all of these years later, he becomes the crusty geriatric finger to, the geriatric thumb to kill their effort to keep a 7-year campaign promise. I mean, this is a guy we lionize as some kind of virtuous hero. I was never insulted by Donald Trump making the comment about him that he did. I really don't care. And I'm a veteran. You don't get to use your veteran status and your POW status as an excuse for being a piece of trash.
So here's, I mean, okay.
It's not like a get out of being a piece of trash card for the rest of your life. Sick of that crap.
He was everything wrong in politics today, and I don't care.
Everything.
And you could make that on either side of the aisle. He was supposedly on the right, but this is a guy who they say had such courage, right? Oh, he was the Hanoi Hilton and such courage. This is a guy who picked Sarah Palin to be his running mate. Why? Because he wanted the Tea Party vote. He despised the Tea Party vote. The Tea Party people. He despised Sarah Palin, but he used her. He used this person, and look what she endured throughout this thing. Somebody with even an ounce of courage would have stood up for Sarah Palin. You picked her, dude. You picked her. That was your choice. And he just stood back, and he probably enjoyed watching her get trashed. So this man had not 1 ounce of courage. And now you got Mitt Romney, you got Liz Cheney, and they're all fighting to be the John McCain, right? They all want that coveted, reasonable Republican spot. And I just throw them in a cage. Mitt Romney, Liz Cheney, let's do a cage match. Let's get it over with. The winner, you get to be John McCain, which is, wow, what a great honor that would be. So I didn't like, so I mean, and there are so many Republicans who do this. Those are the ones we got to get out. We got to focus on internally, the Republican Party, get rid of these people. And I'm working hard on that right now. And I guarantee you, I promise everybody right now, we will get that rhino in Michigan out of there.
He's gone. Yep. I'm telling you, there's a list. By the time 2022 is over, Don, we're going to be able to say that without a doubt, we took these people out.
Yep.
And we are gonna make a damn point this year.
Damn
I'm serious.
straight.
I'm over this because look, there's a great question by Lamb Crow, which goes to this. How do you explain bombs like Sharon Angle and Ken Buck and Richard Murdoch? They're always the go-to examples, and he's right, of why you shouldn't nominate base candidates. Throw Todd Aiken in there as well. There are far less of them, though, than there are of the moderate losers. That is, without a doubt, the case and the truth. Sharon Angle, Ken Buck, Richard Murdoch, even Todd Aiken, Don, all have something in common. Being a bomb thrower and being, a candidate of conviction, an outsider, whatever, does not mean that you're a good candidate. That alone doesn't make you a good candidate. Just like, being a moderate and supposedly electable does not mean you're a good candidate. You're going to be a good candidate. These people were bad candidates who were not ready for prime time. And you really do have to be careful. Don, you can back me up on this. You really have to be careful of the fake bomb throwers. Okay? They're supposedly men and women of conviction, super conservative, defend the hell out of the voter kind of thing, and they're frauds. All right? Sharon Angle had delusions of grandeur. I can't even begin to tell you some of the stuff we heard about her. Not a healthy woman. Okay. Right. I mean, Don, we have a mutual friend who I could tell, if he hasn't told you already, I will tell him to tell you stories. This woman's crazy. Okay. I mean, and then after she loses, she continues to think that she would one day be like president of the United States or something. She's crazy. All right. Ken Buck, I think, just didn't know how to handle the media.
very well, and he made some really stupid comments because he's again, being a bomb thrower shouldn't make you fringe, and you shouldn't confuse those. Richard Murdoch, same thing. I wouldn't even call him that fringe. He just was an idiot who didn't know how to deal with the media and speak. Craig wasn't ready for prime time. What do you think about that? I think my damn eye.
There's a couple things to this, and I say this to everybody watching right now. There's a couple different things. You have to be a good candidate. You have to have real conviction, right? So I really believe these things, and if elected, I'm really going to do these things. You also have to have a good team around you. That is so important, and it gets overlooked by a lot of people that run. And that's how you end up. You can throw bombs as long as you've got real conviction, as long as you're truly what you present yourself to be. You're not doing a bait and switch to people. That's a big part of it. But you've got to have a good team around you. And that's one of the things I've found working on different campaigns. I won't mention the candidate, but I actually resigned from a campaign here this week just because it was a dumpster fire. The team around was just, it was a dumpster fire. And it's like, I don't want my name associated with this. And I think the candidate was good, had conviction, but it's a dumpster fire. So that all plays together. It's a team. It's a team sport. People don't understand that this politics, it's a team sport. It wasn't just Donald Trump in 2016 that won. He had a great team around him. And so you've got to have that whole package to really be a good candidate and have people that will keep you on to your convictions and say, hey, wait a minute. Sometimes you got to sit them down and say, okay, look, this is where we're at with this. This is your position. So just don't try to be liked and get an interview on CNN, or don't try to do this or this. Be yourself. Be true to yourself. You can't be true to the people if you're not true to yourself.
Yeah, authenticity. And I would argue that one of the downfalls of the Trump 2020 campaign was that he had too many of those damn people that make all these problems in a campaign. They make their money from it. That's how they make their living. He didn't have them all in 2016. All he had was his instinct and the instincts of some really good people. That is exactly it. Thank you so much, my precious princess. I had my favorite helper go fetch me something. Got something in my eye.
She's just a helper now?
No, not Laura. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's not my.
I'm not his.
She's not my precious princess. She's my queen. Yeah. We have different names here. But basically, he had a lot of distractions. You know, I mean, look, Ken Brad Parscale had inflated his initial contribution to 2016 was inflated. Don. All right. That's it. Donald Trump had great political instincts, and he had some incredibly, controversial, but look, I don't know a guy in politics who has better instincts than Steve Bannon. All right. You can say what you got to say about the guy, and I'm telling you, his instincts are right on. And then the same thing goes with Corey, who, may not be, there's a full deal there in the end, with what recently is surrounding him, whatever, that's irrelevant. He understood Donald Trump is going to do better in Iowa than people think because of that. And then that's all he needs to get to New Hampshire. I'm from New Hampshire. I know the working class voters of New Hampshire. He's going to crush New Hampshire, and he's going to springboard to the nomination. He saw the map ahead of him. And he knew that Donald Trump's message struck a tone with those economically depressed New England voters, and that he was going to bring out people in New Hampshire that were recently moved from Massachusetts, needed a lower cost of living, were not Democrats. They just didn't realize they weren't Democrats, so they typically are independent, and yet they vote Democrat, not when it's Donald Trump. And he knew that if he could just get him to New Hampshire, then that would be it. And again, I can't stress the role Bannon played there, and I can't stress it enough. I really can't. Bannon was out there searching for a Donald Trump, and when he ran into him, like Barnes always says, I don't know how Barnes got this, but he's right. Donald Trump didn't even pronounce populism right. He just knew what he was trying to say,
right.
And Bannon was like, "This guy gets it. He gets it," and all of that got clouded with the consulting crap that led you to resign from that campaign that you're talking about. And I see this every year. Too much. Despite our warnings. Despite our warnings, which is, folks, Don and I will talk to somebody. And they'll call, they'll want advice, or they'll want to hire you. And the first thing Don will tell them, or I will tell them, is, listen, this is how it's going to go. Especially when you win your primary. This is what you can expect. This deluge of wolves who don't give a damn about your campaign or the people you're running to support. And they, sadly, what do you think the percentages of people who fall for it every damn time?
Ooh, high.
What do you think? It's
75%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Me too. And it's sad because we'll lay it out for them, folks. Right? Laura's over here. We'll lay it out for them.
Because
then they call back.
After the fact, and it's hysterical because here's Rich and Don hearing the woe is me, and then they're just like,
we told you so. Like, that's it. Like, I'm sorry, but you have wasted enough of our time. Good luck in all your endeavors. Good riddance. Because, I mean, if you were that stupid to fall for it, honestly, you know, you wasted not only our time, you wasted the voters' time.
Well, okay, so here's how it works. So you and I are on the call with, so I get the call from this candidate and we go through all this stuff. And then I get you on the phone and another mutual friend of us who handles like fundraising stuff. And I'm like, here you go. You guys can ask any questions. They've never run for anything before. So you go through all this stuff, just like you just said. Okay, so here's the things that are going to happen to you. Every single person you meet is going to know everything about running a candidacy, how to win a campaign. They've never done it before. But it's like going on Twitter, right? Like everybody's an expert on everything. Everybody's an epidemiologist. Everybody's a, whatever. So you tell them all this stuff, and you also tell them, this is always my key phrase. I tell them, and everybody you meet that does this to you, they all know a guy. I know a guy who does this. I know a guy who does. And you're going, oh God. So this is back in March. So here we are. It's last week, and I got 8 people on a conference call telling me what you need to do to win a campaign. So you need to do this and you need to do that. And I finally just said, have any of you ever worked on a campaign before? And of course the answer was no, they haven't. Yeah. I've won several campaigns. So it's not my ego thing. It's not, it's not because I have this huge giant ego. I can work in a team. I love to work in a team. I want to be the communications director. I don't need to be the campaign manager or the senior advisor. I'm not looking for a promotion. This is what I do, and I'm good at it. But to have a whole bunch of people tell you what you need to do you've never run a campaign, you've never been on a campaign, you've never won a campaign, and yes, I know you know a guy, but so I mean, 75% of the time you end up here and you go, this is exactly what I told you guys on the very first phone call, and here we are. So I'm out of here because I don't need the stress. I'll go somewhere else where I keep productive, we'll win, and I don't have to listen to this stuff.
And I got to tell you, the left, because they're true believers, and what they believe in ideology, again, is very different than like a way of life. Conservatism's not a real ideology. It's more like a set of principles and a way of life. Whereas ideology, leftism, is an ideology. So they're dedicated to that ideology like believers are dedicated to God, and there's this phenomena, and I'm not going to name any names, but there's this phenomena, these campaigns and their general consultants, right? Who are like these right-wing personalities who know, like Don said, not a damn thing about how to run a campaign. So I don't know what they're consulting anybody on because this is new to them. What they think they have is a Rolodex of people that they can call to raise money so then they can get the candidate to put all of their friends on payroll and then cut them a monthly check for consulting. All right. And it all just goes to pot. It all gets squandered. They turn out, if they're lucky, to be vanity campaigns. The candidate wastes everybody's money and everybody's time. They lose total control. Ultimately, in the end, the candidate is the manager of the campaign in the truest sense. He or she is responsible for the team they surround themselves with and the decisions that get made. And sadly, there's always this infighting as if like they're all little mini White Houses or something.
Drama.
It's all
drama.
Yeah, this damn drama. And, this so-and-so doesn't believe in so-and-so. And one of the things as a pollster that drives me crazy is that it's more than just delivering you a product. Like, I need to go over the product with the candidate, and we need to go over it with everybody on the team. And I hate it when there's like a campaign manager or like a general consult, whatever. And they think they're like a freaking expert. Like you said, everybody's an expert.
Yep.
Because you think you can read a crosstab does not mean that you don't need this explained to you. So it's just like, don't waste my time if you're not going to use the product that I, put together to the best of your ability or to the fullest extent that it can be used.
Yeah.
And if you're going to waste my time, then take a freaking hike. Like, I don't rely on you guys for a life, so it just drives me nuts. And the worst part about it is a lot of good candidates have gone down those paths, and they could have been good additions to our government.
Well, and there's another part of this too, and I think just to kind of dispel a myth, because I know everybody thinks this, and I thought it too before I started doing this, is that it's all about the money, right? So you made the comment to where people will listen to people because they've got a Rolodex and they say, well, I know these guys will give this amount of money. It is not actually all about the money. I always thought that too. Then you get in there and you find out it isn't. And this example, I'll just give this one. Last election cycle, and this is in Michigan. I won't say where it was. This is in Michigan. The candidate that ran against us spent $670,000 in the primary. $670,000.
Primary.
He cashed in.
Crushed him by like 30%. I'm sorry.
We spent $36,000 against $670,000, and we won by 30 points. So it is not all about money. It's about having that conviction. It's about messaging properly. It's about people understanding you, and there's some marketing things that you could do to overcome huge money, but it's not all about the money.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in relationships, and in that particular campaign, that candidate was good for us for relationships because he had already done a lot of groundwork. So it was very easy for you and I. Yeah, he was a worker. It was very easy for you to say, listen, I'm trying to get you to convey this message. He knew who to talk to convey it to. And if I had polling results, I would say, listen, I really need you to understand this is what this says. And it was direct. And then he knew okay, I get what you're saying. Now let me go have a conversation. It was good like that, by the way.
And he listened
what happened there without getting too much into it. Washington ruined that. That campaign. They ruined it. They came in, they swoop in, they have big promises.
Kicked us to the side.
And they ruined that campaign. He
got smoked. But I want to say this too, though. You were talking about, you do all this work and you give them this product. It's up to them what they do with it. And the smart ones, like this candidate, used it. And he went, okay, this is how the people feel about defunding the police. This is how the people feel about jobs and the economy. This is how people, and then I put together a message, and then he took it and went, yeah, that's perfect because I agree with that. And boom. So that's a big aspect of it, is the ego of the candidate. Are they willing to take this advice, listen to people, take good product and use it to their advantage? This guy was. The candidate we ran against wasn't, but he also had a dumpster fire campaign team around him too. And so it's about the team, and it's about messaging, and it's about having conviction. Those are the most important things.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's this pitfall in the era of Trump, post-Trump era, where some of the other thing I see is that some of them could be great additions, but they don't know that some of it, you can't reinvent the wheel on certain things, or at least you shouldn't try. Thinking out of the box is totally different than reinventing the wheel with campaigns. But they saw Donald Trump use social media so powerfully and barely spend any money in 2016. Everyone for a while thought they could be like Donald Trump. What they didn't realize is a little thing called name recognition. Donald Trump was universally known, and he didn't need to spend money to crush Jeb Bush, who spent thousands of dollars for votes in a state like Iowa. Right? You remember that?
Yep.
We actually did a thing on People's Pundit Daily about that. We always like to do that during primaries. Who spent the most on each vote?
And Jeb Bush was like ridiculous. Donald Trump spent like $1.50. It was ridiculous. It was something crazy, some outrageous number. And Jeb went down anyway. So yeah, I mean, I just it's something the right has to take a serious look at, because they don't have that. The left's got their own issues, but they don't have the same issues. And they tend to kind of evolve, where the right is, they have these problems that just keep re-manifesting themselves every election cycle. And I did want to get to some of these things, but because we're basically at the end of the show now. What the most questions I saw in the chat were for Laura, and how to make chicken cutlets and a juicy turkey and a good casserole. And I'm not kidding. I'm searching. You got some here? Hold on, let me
And as for the turkey recipe, sorry, you gotta marry into my family in order to get it. And as for chicken cutlets, I will give you this. When they tell you to fry chicken cutlets in vegetable oil, please
don't do that.
Use
It's disgusting.
olive oil.
It's
it is so
oil
much
of
more
olive,
flavor.
okay?
Extra virgin olive oil.
Come on now,
It's
va bene?
delicioso.
Oil of olive, va bene? All right, I haven't looked at, this is a good question, Mike France in Connecticut too. They say he's a little Chamber of Commerce-y, but culturally he's spot on for the area and raised quite a bit of money. I will do that for you, and I will come back to it at a later time. This is a locals question. That's Lamp Crows. Okay, Lamp, I'll get that for you. Do you know who that is, Don? I don't know enough.
I've heard the name, but
opposition.
Yeah, I've heard the name, but
opposition.
Yep, don't know much about him either.
And I haven't looked at filings. And before I like to talk about anybody, that's another thing. First thing Don and I do is root through everybody's filings. They're like, hey, anything I need to, yeah, sure. Let me see what kind of person you are. Go right through their filings. Right, Don? How many times have we done that?
The deep dive.
Red flag. This guy's a piece of crap. All right. Can Chris Smith get kicked out? Very unlikely. You mean in a primary, though, or in a general? In a general, very unlikely. In a primary, possibly, but still very tough. I know Chris. He's been there for a very long time, and it would be hard. Now, Chris represents areas like Millstone and outside of parts of Freehold and Howell that would be very pissed off with him right now. Okay, so Millstone, you would think, would be one of those more liberal, very affluent, very suburban, love Donald Trump. It's weird. I can't believe it. I thought all those people hated him. It's more than just whether it was suburbs and affluent and educated. It was so much more than that. It was metro suburbs. And Millstone is not a metro suburb. These are wealthy people who, by the way, the Wu-Tang Clan mansion is there. All right, they're wealthy people who believe, I don't want to give my money to the government because they can't spend it as good as me. So they're like the old taxation kind of Republican. They liked Donald Trump. They liked him. So there's an opportunity there, but it would take a war chest because, man, Chris knows peeps. All right. He knows he's going to run to his freeholder friends. I'm serious. He's going to run. They're going to make sure the machine's going in freehold. So they're going to make sure the mini mansion subdivisions all are supporting him. It's tough. It's tough. But if it is time to do it, it's soon. I imagine Chris will retire soon anyway. All right. Maybe he's not going to retire now, but he will retire soon. And there'll be a golden opportunity to put somebody that's more reflective. I got to tell you, I don't know how much I want to share about this, but there was something during the war that I brought to his attention. And, going back to it was before the invasion of Iraq, I'm thinking. I mean, God, it was many, 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 many years ago. And it was certain treatments of certain people. And he was all for the war effort. And I will give people this. He was there when I needed somebody to hear what was happening. And he took it. Don, it was not easy. And boy, he made sure, yeah, man. He made sure those responsible were held responsible. Because he said, listen, you're either going to take care of this internally,
to the satisfaction of somebody, or which was, me and others, or I'm going to put this all over Fox News and CNN. So which way is this going to go down?
Mhm.
And he did it. I just, and if he ever hears this, I'm sure he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And I was stunned because I thought he was going to cave. I was from that area. I knew him. And I thought, this is your very establishment. You didn't have the word rhino back then. It was something else. But your very establishment kind of guy. And he's so much into this war effort. I don't trust him. So I actually didn't trust him because I thought he was too pro-Bush. And they're not going to want anything embarrassing right now. So you take it to him, and it's going to somehow come back to eat us. And it didn't, because he actually used it in a totally different way, Don. I wish I could talk about that a little bit more in detail, but maybe I will. But I'd be more comfortable just doing it with like locals or on a Zoom call. But it was just like mistreatment of certain people, and he handled it, man. He did. Yeah, Laura's over there like no go, because she knows what I'm talking about. Yeah, I can't, right? I don't think I'm allowed legally to say that. I'll have to go and look at that. But Don, maybe you know too. You were in the military. I don't think I'm allowed to say that. I don't know. But in any event, he could have went one or two ways, and he could have said, "Listen, I'm in charge of your funding. I'm for the war effort. The hell's wrong with you people? Bury this, get rid of these people, and then whatever. There won't be any witnesses or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't, and he was like, "You're going to handle it, and we're going to handle it quietly, but you're going to handle it, and you're going to punish him. And if you don't, I'm going to make sure everybody knows. And right in the middle of your damn war effort, it's not going to look very good." What else can you expect a congressman to do? That's it, right?
Yep.
I mean, sad though. What does it show you? It's like John Roberts. He was like Midwest, Catholic educated, goes to D.C. and turns into a piece of crap, the Chief Justice of the United States. I mean, who knows? Maybe that's what happened to Chris Smith. New Jersey's a dirty place to play, and I really, truly suspect, even if you're a national politician, the longer you remain in office, Don, the harder and harder it is to keep your hands dry.
It goes back
dry because of blood.
Goes back to our theme of the day: conviction.
Conviction.
How deep is your conviction?
Well, look, as someone who is New York, New Jersey Catholic, I can tell you, because he's Catholic, I can tell you it's not that deep. Okay? No offense to Catholics, but you know what I'm talking about, guys. I'm not Catholic anymore, but I was raised Roman Catholic. I was baptized Greek Orthodox, raised Roman Catholic. You could pretty much do whatever the hell you want as long as you go to the priest on Sunday and ask for forgiveness.
And admit it.
Yeah. If you're my grandfather, take out a couple of beans, put it in the pod, and that's what we grew up with. Chris, no different. Irish Catholic, I mean, that's just the way it was. Yeah, everyone's got a deeply devoted grandmother or mother who's got, Mary on the dining room table or in somewhere on a nook or a serving thing or something. The rosary's wrapped around. Everyone's got it. Yep. And the grandma's devoted, mom's devoted, but you are a bad, bad boy. And every Sunday you have to make sure that you give your Hail Marys and tell the priest, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. And that's how those neighborhoods are. All right. Yep. So don't get mad at me because I'm just telling everybody knows what I'm talking about. They all do. I mean, that's it. All right, so Dom, what do you got going on? You had a really fantastic interview with Michael Flynn. You told everybody about it last time you were on last week. I know a lot of people watched it. That was phenomenal, man. I mean, phenomenal. He is funny, dude. When he thinks he's just off the, when he thinks he's on chained, right?
Yep.
But you've had truth be told, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. You've had a lot of cool things going on. So what do you got coming up? What should people go check out? And then, of course, I'll see you tomorrow. We'll be doing this again tomorrow.
And
You
actually,
bet.
I'll be seeing you in about an hour because we got to talk anyway. So go ahead.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, so last week too, so that was on Monday's show. This Monday we had General Michael Flynn, almost an hour with him. It was super cool. So if you haven't checked that out, it's the Stand Up America US show with MG Paul Valley every Monday, noon Eastern time. This week we've got Peter Navarro, who I had on my show last Saturday, and that was awesome. I thought that was a great interview. That guy's hilarious too. So we got him on that show on Monday. But this Saturday, I sat down yesterday with Kash Patel and had about 25 minutes with him. And man, I just love that guy. That guy is so awesome. But we talked about like the Afghanistan thing, right? So here you've got the administration that says, we inherited this plan. Kash Patel was the guy behind the plan, and he tells you exactly what the plan was. And by the way, just for a sneak peek of it, it did not include closing Bagram Air Base. They were going to keep it open. That was like number one priority: keep it open, get these civilians out first. So. Yeah. He totally blows that narrative sky high. But we talked about a lot of other things too, including the spying on Donald Trump when he was then candidate Trump. I played him that clip. So which I put up in my locals now. If anybody hasn't checked it out, donsmithshow.locals.com. Yep, I put that clip up where you can hear the interference. And so I played that for him and then got his reaction to that. Pretty cool reaction. But again, I had like 25 minutes with him and we just went through everything, and just an amazing guy. Love that guy. And it was a great, great interview. So you want to check that out on Saturday, starting at noon Eastern time. Of course, Peter Hussey will be back. I've got the world's greatest pollster, and I'm really looking forward to interviewing Frank Lutz. So,
burn! Burn! Oh my goodness gracious. That was good though. Warning.
So that was my shtick for the day.
That was good, buddy.
No,
that was good. You got me good.
We've got you on tomorrow, and why don't you tell us what you're going to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, generally, I think we should talk about the alternative universes that we are seeing some of these, polls. I didn't get a chance to go over it, but moving into the public polling project that's coming up, I'm glad actually Thanksgiving's not next week because I thought it was, and I don't want to poll over Thanksgiving weekend, but talk about what we're going to add in ours. And by the way, I did see somebody's suggestion about whether or not we should add a question about people being whether they're remorseful for getting the vaccination, whether they regret it. Mm-hmm. And that is something we were flirting with putting in. And it's one of those things where it can go into the subsection in a matrix or something. So it doesn't really add to the question bank. It's just something else like a follow-up we could do. But yeah, we're going to focus really on issues and, voting issues and vaccinations. Don, I don't know how you can have a Democrat plus 10 on the generic ballot out of CNN, but a Republican plus 7 from Emerson and a Republican plus 8 from Suffolk. There's just no universe where any of that makes sense. And I wanted to get into that a little bit more, but we could talk about that tomorrow along as public polling project, So, but it just doesn't, Don, it's not possible. You understand? It's just not possible. The Economist and YouGov then follow it up. By the way, The Economist and the guy who runs the projection model at The Economist is the most unsuccessful election forecaster and polling. He is the most unsuccessful. He is the worst person to listen to when it comes to interpreting polling. And when you get that data from YouGov, that's why you see a lot of people say, well, it's the Economist YouGov poll and then YouGov CBS tracker. CBS gets the data from YouGov, and then their people decide how to interpret that data.
How to massage it.
Economist and YouGov, yes, and that's why you always see the Economist poll completely off base from everything else and wrong, because it's the same guy who's in charge of their election forecast model, which has been the least accurate. He's even worse than the Slimer. I mean, his track record is even worse than the Slimer. He's worse than the old Fix Washington Post projection model. Mm-hmm. He's worse than the New York Times crap. He's worse than Larry Sabato and his tiny crystal balls. He is the worst. I mean, it's not at all accurate, and he's an arrogant son of a what.
I mean, he is an arrogant SOB.
Yep.
Find him on Twitter. I'm not going to give his handle a shout out. The hell with him. He probably blocked me now because I went so hard after him after this election. I did. I was like, you are either a total fraud or really bad at your job. And I'm going to remind you of this daily until you retreat to private life because you are making my industry look horrible. All right. So I'm not going to allow people, scumbags like you, to exist anymore. You have to go away. And I'm not sure. I think he blocked me. Along with John Cusack from Serendipity.
Oh, yeah. Big
John,
loss.
what's his name? John Favreau. These losers put me on a list. And I only know this because I got a celebrity friend. And he told me that his agent said he can't speak to me anymore. And I'm not that he listens, but I remember, I could give it away, but at a mutual party, we had to make sure he wasn't in a photo with me. Just ridiculous crap. Yeah. I don't even know these schmucks, John Favreau and John Cusack and all the like. Who are you people? You're like, I don't know, B-rated actors. I never watched their movies. John Favreau's like, all I remember of John Favreau is that he was that fat loser, pudgy loser in The Sopranos who Chris Moltisanti kicks the hell out of and throws around. And then because that's all I remember of him. Like that's it. Geez. It's like these people, they ban you, Don's like, I can't hear what this guy has to say. I can't hear. What are you doing? And apparently that little weasel from Stand By Me put me in a spreadsheet or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got
Hollywood, look out for this guy.
I got banned by Rose McGowan, and I was absolutely crushed.
Heartbroken. Crushed.
Oh,
well, you know what? She's not particularly charming either.
No. So
her and Alyssa Milano.
Oh, don't get me started on her.
I also want to say this too. And this. I was talking about a candidate earlier. This is in Michigan, and his name is John Gibbs, and he's amazing. VoteJohnGibbs.com is his website, and the guy is amazing.
He's gonna win.
Check him out. We are going to take out a rhino. I promise you. If it's the last thing I do, we're taking this guy out. So John Gibbs, amazing guy. We've got some major announcements coming up. And
major news. I'm a vault.
Yeah. And so one of them I will be able to announce tomorrow on the show. It'll blow your mind. Monday will be completely mind-blowing, the announcement that we make on Monday. So really cool stuff we've already got going on. Just launched yesterday, and this thing is a rocket ship. And again, we're taking that rhino out. And this guy has conviction. This guy has real conviction. You won't have to worry.
I was very impressed.
Yeah, he's amazing. I love this guy.
First of all, I found him to be a genuinely nice guy. That's number one.
Yes.
Very authentic. And I was very taken back by how articulate he was.
Yes.
And his history dealing with agencies makes him an asset when it comes to being a lawmaker and learning how these funding can impact these programs. Yep. Also, since most of my audience not huge fans of Mitt Romney, he was derailed by Mitt Romney and CNN. I have no doubt that Mitt Romney played the patsy of it because you guys really have no idea what a dirtbag Mitt Romney really is. All right. You can pretend, like he's like the hero of the Church of Latter-day Saints and he's such a nice guy. And he is a scumbag who helped the left get rid of a conservative black man who is successful because it's damaging to their very narrative. And he raised his hand and said, I'll do it. Yep. And you'll hear all about it at one point. But
he's the kind of conservative that scares people like Mitt Romney, and which is all the more reason that you should help this guy out. He scares the hell out of them. He represents
something Mitt Romney doesn't like. Can we be honest? He represents something Mitt Romney doesn't like. There is truth to the idea that Mitt Romney and other Republicans who are in that wing of the party really do like the idea of rich white Republicans running the party. Let's be real. And the irony of it all is that Donald Trump and his wing are the party of more and conservatives, real conservatives, not fake, severely conservatives. Okay. Real conservatives don't give a damn. And they really are more inclusive. It's that we really have to be worried about are the Romneys. That is like, these people want it to go back to the time when the Republicans were the party of rich wasps elitists, and that's it. And Mitt Romney was more than happy to derail the advancement of an incredibly talented and smart and devoted, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Black conservative man. He's a dirtbag. That's it. I mean, Mitt Romney's a scumbag. I mean, I can think of other words, but soon it's not going to be fit for YouTube.
Well, let me reiterate a point I've made on here before. The systemic racism that the left talks about all the time, and I've always said it's not just what the white leftists say about Black conservatives or just Black America in general. It's the comfort level in which they say it. You want an example?
Yes,
Joe Biden gave us one yesterday. Watch that clip of Joe Biden talking about Satchel Paige. They so comfortable doing it, and here you've got all the people defending it, and there's no defense for that. There's no defense for that, and he was so comfortable doing it. That is the systemic racism that they say they're fighting against.
Yeah, I totally agree. I completely agree. There's nobody more racist than the rich white elitists, and they're in both parties, frankly. All right. With that in mind, let's kick rocks. Don, 120. I know we got a heartache. I got to talk to you. And I got some other stuff I got to do. So Laura's over there, like, damn. I'm starving. I'm starving.
oh.
You know what was important?
Let me say one last thing. So all the people that want the turkey recipe, I'm going to be undercover at your place, and I am going to share that with everybody. Oh yeah, I got the GoPro.
You won't let you. He said he's going to go undercover because he's coming for Thanksgiving. He's going to go undercover and snag the turkey recipe.
I got the GoPro.
You'll go home blind.
She said Brenda, she's gonna make Don walk around blindfolded here. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be epic. I can't wait.
Sorry, I'll just duct tape him to the chair. No.
Sorry, Don. Zing across the floor.
I'll give you a straw to your glass of wine.
You know what? I'll just get really, really drunk. All right. I'll just get really drunk.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Another Oktoberfest, Don? Another Oktoberfest?
Sounds good.
More nog, Don? More nog. All right, well, we'll see you. I'll talk to you in a little bit, Don. All right.
Good.
And then locals, we'll see you guys in a little while. We'll talk about what we were discussing about with the questionnaire. And everyone else, have a safe weekend. All the best, my friend. Thanks, everybody, for joining us.
Bye, Laura.
Oh, wait. Don't forget. peoplespundit.locals.com. There you go. Later, guys.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends, and spread a little love just for a little fun? I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride. ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear if overnight, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be